Okay, in this video we've set up a new environment that's a little bit different to the ones you guys are using, but I want to show you some extra features and things that I didn't want to play around with your environment to do it. So this is one of my go-to demo sites that I use that for a table build, and I think I've demonstrated this to you guys at Design RV before on Prem, but let me get stuck into it. So pretty much got the standard module you guys have got installed, except I've got the quality module added as well, and I'll show you a little bit about that because I think it's something that you could probably take some advantage of as you move forward. But for the moment, and I'm also taking into account that the caravan module, especially for Essential, could supersede some of these bits and pieces, but nevertheless this is what we can do out of the box. Right, so let's get started. So the first thing I've done is I've installed or added a contact, which is Bunnings, and it's just to have a supplier. It's just someone we can buy some stuff off. The next thing I want to do is look at our inventory. And the first thing I'll do, where to start? We've got some products. Let's go start with products. Got these products here. This manufactured table is something we build. We don't buy, but all the rest of them are products that we buy in for building our manufactured table. Let's go and have a look at this in list view. With list view, we can see the quantity on hand for the list, which is just a nice easy way of doing that. And I can see that some of these are at 0, so we're going to need to buy some components in. Some of them we've got some stock of, and so forth. The next thing I want to do is go to locations, and I've added a couple locations here. I know Essential aren't really using locations at all much, but I'm showing this to suggest you could, and I know Design RV are using some locations, but what I've got here is I've set up these locations just as a demonstration. So I've got a paint shed for obviously paint, and then I've got a couple of racks in there as well. These two at the top, the WH pre-production and stock, are the they're the inbuilt ones. So when we've got two-stage manufacturing turned on, we've got a pre-production area where parts are moved from the stock locations, which all these are child locations of the stock because they've all got the WH stock in them. So they're taken from all these different shelves and things and put into pre-production. So that pre-production area is where the production people actually go and grab those components to build the, in our case, caravans. Cool. So next thing I want to do is show you the put away rules. So put away rules are really handy as well. When a product arrives, when we get a receipt in, or when we're receiving products, it comes into stock, and for a bolt it needs to land on this particular rack, on this rack 2. So when a brace comes in, it's going to get put into rack 3. These are the default locations when these products come in. As you're aware, we can change where the products land based on that particular receipt. We can say, well, this time I want to put it on rack 3 instead of rack 1 or something. But this is just like the default locations. So we don't need to go through and set these every time. If we set them up as a put away rule, it just means that they'll automatically go to that spot. And we can come to inventory, put away rules, and go and create new rules from here, or back on the products. We'll go and open up the bolts, and when it opens, I've got my, where's put away rules gone? Put away rules. So it's exactly the same thing. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of the individual product, and here is that exact same rule. So both places, same thing. And also another thing I want to do too, go to reporting and then inventory report, and this will bring up our entire stock list, and this is all I've got in the list, and it comes with these groups group by is turned on by default, so it's grouping by product and then by location. I sometimes like to turn off the product, so don't group it by product, just group it by location, and then I can see exactly what's in my paint shed. For example, I can see everything that's in my paint shed by doing that. I can see how many litres I've got, 130 of this and 120 of that. I'm going to open up a couple of these as well. Rack 3, I've got some wooden tops and I've got some laminated tops on rack 3. I've got 20 of each. And so, yeah, another thing we're probably not really taking advantage of is the ability to be able to report on this stuff really easy. Find your products wherever they are within your business and so forth. Yeah, if I want to turn off locations altogether, I can just see the list of all the products there and where they live. So, yeah. This is one place where it's also see the available quantity as well as the on-hand quantity. What else? Yeah, probably maybe of interest to Term V1. Who knows? Right, what else is there? It's manufacturing. Let's get into manufacturing. I don't think there's much else to see here. Well, maybe I'll quickly do it. The way I've loaded some of these quantities in is I've done it through an inventory adjustment. So I've gone through and just added these numbers in, clicked apply all, and that's updated the quantity just as an inventory adjustment. But in a sec, we'll need to buy some products too. Let's go to manufacturing, and we'll go to operations and manufacturing orders. Sorry, no. I'll go to the bill of materials first. I'll show you that before we get into manufacturing the product. So here's my manufactured table. We'll open it up, and I can see the products that need to go into this. I don't have any steps involved there yet. I can see the quantity of those products. I can see the units. I can see I do have the consumed in turned on. So consumed in operations, which is something that I know the carry-on module is using the consumed in or using operations as well. So what does that mean? Let's have a look at the operations tab. I can see I've got these operations here. So there's a framing operation, there's a add the top operation, there's a painting operation, and there's an inspection, which is a quality inspection. And this I'll show you the quality steps in here in a second. So we've got these components, but this is where they get used in this particular operation. Yeah, so that's what that means. I don't think there's much more I need to say on that. I do have these set up, so maybe I'll quickly just show you that. So under configuration, I've got work centers, and these are my work centers where the work is carried out. I've got a framing location, like area of the factory. I've got an assembly area of the factory, and I've got a paint shop where maybe it's a paint booth where they get spray painted or something like that. And then I've got a space where I do my quality inspections. And then under operations, I've got my framing of the table that happens in that framing area, and I've got my add tabletop that happens in that assembly area. Paint shop, paint the table happens in the paint shop, and inspection happens in the quality area, the quality inspection area. And I can see that these operations are related to this particular BOM, this particular bill of materials. So let's go back to that bill of materials. This is just a way of seeing all work centres and operations. I'll go back to the individual bill of materials again, just so I can see that when she loads. So these parts, these are the operations that get carried out, and you'll notice the last one it doesn't have any products associated with it, but it is an operation that needs to happen, and this is actually on the finished table. So we've got 2 steps involved in that, and if I click on this little detail button, which is what they're calling that, it's like a combination of a hamburger plus dots in front of it. Well, let's click on that and we'll open her up. And I can see that they've got 2 quality control points set. So we'll do this first one, which is a measure type, and the second one is just a pass fail, but I'll click on this first one. And I can see that it's checked the paint thickness. It's related to this particular product. And there's the work operations, if you recall, that's what I named the operation. I can see this is on every single product. On a product in every single one of them. I can do random checks, I can do percentages or whatever else, but in this case I'm doing all. I can see it's a measure type, and I've said that normal is 1 millimeter thick of paint, but I'm happy to accept anything that's from 0.8 to 1.2 millimeters thick. Doesn't matter, probably not, but anyway, it's really just demonstrating how the quality check works. I don't use a worksheet for this, and the worksheet's a little bit advanced for this point in time, so I won't get into that. I don't want to get distracted too much. This is the instruction that will get presented when the person gets up to that stage of doing the quality check. It just says measure the paint thickness. You can stick whatever you want in here. If I do click this to edit, and it loads. There we go. So down here I can do things like an add bullet list, but I can also add images. So you might put a drawing in here like a PDF, or you might have a JPEG of the table, or you might have lots of things you can add. Checklist table, an actual table, like a spreadsheet type table. As I said, you can add images, buttons, links, maybe it's a link to the PDF for the instruction or whatever else you want in there as well. So you just do that by clicking on the / and then that brings up this menu where you can go and select what you want, and then you can format it any way you want. That's an aside. We're not even going to worry about that. So our next quality check, so I'll discard that change, go away. So we'll swing to the next one, and this one was a pass fail type. So sturdiness, I again struggling to think of a good quality check, but I was thinking, well, maybe you just want to make sure that it doesn't rock and roll and it's nice and flat and it doesn't twist or buckle or whatever. So again, this is a product on all, it's pass fail, so this is really just the message will be just check that it doesn't wobble and that all the joints are robust. And the person will just get it's either a yes or no, tick yes it passes or no it doesn't. Message here if it's defective, you can mark it as defective, maybe you put a yellow sticker on it that says defective and you've got to do some rework on it, and you can put it in a quarantine area or a rework area, whatever the instruction is there. So this is all about that table. So if we follow breadcrumbs back to the manufactured table, I'm back to where I was, back to the operations tab, and there's that instruction there. So we're pretty much right to build that table now, I think. So next step is to create the manufacturing order. So I'll go to operations, manufacturing orders. We don't have any yet. We'll create one. And we're going to pick out that product we're going to build, which is the manufactured table. And it says which BOM, well, it defaults to the first BOM, but you could have multiple BOMs attached to this particular product, so you might have different variations. Maybe one's painted blue and one's painted pink or something. And rather than having to go manually adjust these components, you can just pick out the different BOMs. I'm guessing for the way both caravan companies work, that's probably a little not going to help you too much, because there's so many variations that you would have to have thousands of different bombs to meet every single combination of products. But nevertheless, you may decide that you know, for a 5-2, then you have 2 or 3 standard bombs that you can then just tweak as you go along, and that way it might make your life a little bit easier. Anywho, let's keep going. So here's all the components got to go in, their quantities, and I can see that some of these, looking at the forecast buttons, I've got blue, I'm going to call that, and we've got reds, although they're both kind of shaded, so it's a little bit, yeah. Blue means we've got the stock, reds mean we don't have the stock, so we don't have enough of these braces to build the entire table, because we don't have enough of the components. So I'm missing the braces and I'm missing nails. Everything else is good though. But as a scheduler, let's say, or the person creating the manufacturing orders, I know right now I've got to do something about these nails and these braces. I've either got to raise a purchase order, or I just got to make sure that they get in on time. I can start this manufacturing order right now, even without these components. But at some point, you know that those braces and nails need to turn up, and you can, depending on where they fit within the build, you may choose to start it and just hope that they turn up in time. Or you may decide that as a scheduler, from a scheduling point of view, no, I'm not going to even start this until I've got all the components. I think in the world of caravans and the world of reality, it's unlikely you're going to have all the components you need exactly when you want them and that sort of thing, so you can't hold up production. But you just need to be cognizant of the need to make sure that you need to coordinate that these missing parts turn up in time, or you can do it anyway. As a scheduler, that's your job, is to make sure you coordinate all these things. So I'm saying schedule there because really this is part of this next part. We use your scheduling the build. So what we'll go to is schedule date, and from here I can pick out a date, and I'll pick out next week. I'll pick out a time I want this to start. You might not care about the individual times, but I'm just going to say 10 o'clock just for the hell of it. So it's going to start on the 23rd of the 1st of 2023 at 10 o'clock. So if I've scheduled that to start then, I can look at my work orders, and here I don't have any scheduled dates inserted yet, because we haven't saved this. All we've done is put the date in here. Once I save this and confirm it, then this will fill in with scheduled dates based on the duration at each work centre. So this is saying it's going to take 60 minutes to do it. So if that's 10 o'clock, that'll probably finish at, that should start at 10. I'm not sure it does start at 10 or 11. I'll need to check that. Nevertheless, assembly will be an hour later, because there's 60 minutes duration for the framing, and then paint shop will be an hour after that, and the quality inspection will be an hour after that. So that's kind of how that works. So I think with that, I'll probably leave this video here just so I can regroup for the next one. And I think the next one we'll start the build, and we'll see how to deal with those missing products.